Hello and welcome to episode number 32 of the WP Café show with me, Keith Devon.
And with me, Mark Wilkinson. So, episode 32.
Yeah, another big milestone.
Not really. How has your week been, Keith? What have you been
I could talk for a long time on how my week has been so far.
It's been a busy one, yes, I forgot. Yes.
We started our house renovation on Monday, and it has not gone very well so far. So day 4, and it would make a really, really good episode of Grand Designs so far. So the latest news, Mark, which I don't know if you even know, is they found asbestos.
Oh dear.
So
not the end of the world, but
not the end of the world. The first thing, so on Monday, the builders came in, started stripping stuff out, and within like minutes, the cost had gone up by about $8,000 because they needed to replace a back wall. So there's loads of stuff with that. Then they found some other stuff that wasn't ideal, like a window in an internal wall that we didn't know about that's supposed to be supporting a beam. And then yesterday they found asbestos sheets. So yeah, it's gone really.
Where were they?
It's been great. In the kind of ceiling towards the back of the house. It's kind of hard to describe unless you know the house. Right. Yeah, about half the house floor area is like the ceiling of it is that. So, but the builders have said they can't just cover it. It's fine. It's okay to cover it.
Yeah,
that's what they would do. We lose a little bit of ceiling height,
right?
But so it's been a busy week, and we've been staying at friends because we've had to move out while all this is going on, and I'm getting no sleep because there's a 1-year-old in the house, and we're in a kind of smallish bed. So yeah, it's.
Other than that, it's been a great week.
And I've got a cold. Yeah, it's just tip top. It's been really great. How about you?
My week's been very boring compared to that. Yeah, no, just nothing really happening that's very exciting in my life, I'm afraid, apart from going to work and dropping the kids off here, there, and everywhere, and what have you. So yeah, anyway,
the usual,
yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get on to things associated with WP Café and WordPress and the web and etc. etc. So, what are we discussing today? Topic number 1.
Yeah, I think it's full site editing.
Full site editing, yes.
Because you've had a play, and I actually had a little play this morning. So yeah, we can chat about that. Topic number 2 is writing case studies. Just that because that's what I was doing for most of this week, which is another reason this week hasn't been the most fun. And the third thing I thought we'd add to the topic list is the question: what defines our WordPress generation, or what defines a WordPress generation? It was a tweet. We can come back to it. Thought it was an interesting question, just for a bit of fun, really. We've got another couple of things we could chat about. And as always, if you're watching along live and you've got something you'd like to ask us, please do so in the live comments.
Hi, Chris, and hi, Craig. Thank you for joining us.
Hello. Full site editing, Mark. You had a bit of a crack at it, and
I did. I've never used it before. I've seen it used in videos, like watching other people use it, and I've seen little tutorials and things using it, but I've never actually got my hands on it yet. So I thought, I'm going to do it. I'm going to have a play with it, and I thought, why not record it? So if you haven't already seen it, there is a video on our channel. It's basically me starting from scratch and installing like 2022. Yeah, 2022, and having a go with it. It's quite long. I think it's about 40 minutes long of me rambling on and getting confused and lost about various things. But it might be worth watching if you have never used it and might learn some stuff. So what did I think? 2 things that really sprung to mind. The first is that there's no way we're ever going to use that in its current state, I don't think, for our clients. It just complicates too many things for us, I think, for our clients. We use the block editor, and I suppose never say never, but
what does it complicate?
It's hard. It's just hard to use. I mean, that was my underlying thought throughout the whole process, was that it's supposed to be a site editor to allow anyone to change their website without the need for a developer or someone who knows how to do this stuff. And does it do that? Well, it does, but it's a massive learning curve. It's a massive learning curve. Like, I just kept thinking, like, how would my mum or my wife, no disrespect to them, but they're not techie people, they don't know this stuff, would they be able to do this? And the answer is no, they wouldn't have a clue. You know, if you watch the video, there's lots of stuff that I didn't have a clue with, and I kind of know what I'm talking about. And then there's also that argument that, well, I've got sort of WordPress baggage of stuff that I know that gets in the way of the new stuff, maybe. But then on the other hand, I was thinking, if I didn't know all this stuff that I know now, I would be even more lost.
Well, that's what I remember you saying, there's this, they talk about templates, parts and things like that. I think, and like templates and they list like the home template index, yada yada yada. And these are like, this is WordPress terminology. It's not layman's term,
absolutely,
like, which I find really strange. So you're taking this kind of like consumer first approach to WordPress, which I agree with. But then you're using this old terminology that only makes sense to WordPress developers.
Absolutely.
And I find that a really, really odd mix.
So you've got a list of templates, which I was suddenly thinking in my head, right, templates, these are home.php, frontpage.php, page.php, single.php. And that's kind of what they are. But to someone who hasn't understood that, like, surely the home is my homepage. Well, no, not if you've got a page set to your front page.
Yeah.
Because it's front page. You see what I mean? It doesn't, that is a strange way of doing it if you want to make it easy and to understand for the masses, to me. So that was my own overlying thought, was that it was actually very hard to use to understand what was happening. And if you watch the video, you'll see that there are moments in the video where I sort of have like a brainwave and like, that's how it works.
Yeah.
And I guess everyone would have those when you start using it. You know what I mean? And I guess the question is, how long would it take for someone who's never used WordPress before to get to that point where they're like, I get that now. Yeah, those different concepts. I think it would be quicker for us because we kind of know, like you said, like what templates and template parts are. But like template parts, what's a template part to someone who doesn't understand WordPress and that's a concept? I think that's quite difficult to do. But the other sort of conclusion that I came to it was, although it's not ready yet, it does have potential. It definitely has potential. But I don't think it's ready for us at this point in time. And it still needs to build client sites from it. It still needs a lot of, CSS and stuff like that. You can't really build like a design from Figma in that. You'd need a lot more than that, I think.
But then you could say the same about the block editor in general, right?
Of course.
And that was an initial reservation that we had, is that it'd be so much easier for us just to like build this in HTML and CSS and not have to worry about the editor and all that stuff. But in the end, it turned out that has been a time saver for us, and we're really enjoying working with the block editor. Yeah, it's not without its frustrations, but yeah, we've kind of like harnessed the power of that now. Do you see that it'll be the same with full site editing? I'm not so sure because of the type of work that we do. I think if you're building themes to go in the theme directory for public consumption,
absolutely,
premium themes or free themes or whatever, that like many people are going to use. But I think for us still, custom sites on a one-off basis, like we build like a one-off site for this company and then we move and build a one-off site for that company.
I think what it does do is it opens up WordPress to more of the local business people that want a website, because actually they can edit anything on the site. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If they've got their head around the block editor, they can just build themselves a website without the need for code. And that's good. But I just don't think it's where our clients sit at the moment.
But playing devil's advocate again, so we have recently taken steps to kind of not fill the gaps, but we've done things like add what we call block areas, so that we can add like heading sections to certain archive pages, or like the footer is the one we typically use the block areas for. We like full site. That's full site editing, right? Like we're doing full site editing our own way. So presumably we would actually want to embrace those features, like the footer. If we could just turn on the footer,
correct
thing,
and it gives you those options. But I did come away thinking from using the full site editor was actually our way is a lot better. It's a lot easier to understand what you're editing.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Just like essentially you've got in the left sidebar in the admin, you've just got a footer. And then you've got a block area to the footer. Like it's obvious what you're editing, whereas you seem to have to go through a lot of hoops to get to where the footer is, and then is it the footer of everything? It just
and you can have like multiple footers and things, and like different headers, and I can understand different. Actually, yeah, maybe I can understand that different headers.
I can understand that definitely.
Footers, I'm not sure, but yeah,
like anything, it's a learning. It's different and it's new, so it's always going to be that aspect of like it's hard because it's new and it is hard.
Yeah,
but so that's why I say it's got potential. I think the more you use it, the easier it would become, and the more you might like it. So I'm not saying that we would never use it, but I'm saying in its current state with our current clients, I don't think at the moment it beats what we already do. And there's two parts to that. One is because we probably don't fully understand it, and the other is just because of like we know what we know and we know what we do, and we've got to invest time and energy to do it that way.
Yep. So my experience of it is very short. I've installed Frost, so Brian Gardner's theme, and I know he's got a new version kind of coming out imminently, like in the next number of days. So things might change quite a bit. I mean, I love Brian's work and I love Brian's designs, and he's just a great person in the community. But typically, I think for this kind of experience is that I installed it and I already had some content, and it just didn't look good. Do you know what I mean? Like it was one of those situations. Like Brian is an amazing designer. I love his work. Just like go and see what he puts out into the world, and it's amazing. But installing that theme didn't make my stuff look amazing. I then had to start doing quite a lot, and it's just like WordPress for me. Like one of the great, I've said this before, I'll say it again. One of the great things about WordPress was that professional designers would create great looking themes, so that someone that isn't a designer can just pull that off a shelf and their site looks good.
Yes,
that's for. I don't feel like that's the case anymore. I feel like I could install Frost or Tove or like by Anders Noren or whatever else, and actually I still have to be a good designer to make it look good. Because there's so many options, and like out of the box, it's quite plain. And
I actually feel like that with other themes. Actually, sometimes your theme demo looks awesome, but then when you actually install it, it was always hard to get it to look as good.
Yeah, I think I'm talking about
that's a new problem.
But back in the day, like pre-blocks, pre-page builders, really, when the theme was very dominant because there wasn't really we didn't have blocks and modules. It was just like a content area navigation widgets. So you just style those things to make to look really, really great, and the site looked great. And now we're moving to this, and it's interesting because this comes back into the product that we've been building, whereas we're putting the onus on the user to make something look good, and actually it's hard.
It's hard,
and I just feel like maybe there's more work to be done. Maybe this version of Frost that's coming will have that. We'll have that kind of like Brian Gardner, like fairy dust sprinkled all over it. Everything looks amazing, but I'm not sure.
So my having used tool site editing now, my question is, what does Frost do?
I wasn't sure, actually. It had some. I think it has the templates that we talked about. So it didn't have a home template. I had to create that myself, which I found really kind of interesting. But
like when I was using full site editing, I was on 2022.
Yeah,
I didn't really know, like, because it was just look like a blank canvas. It didn't like what is 2022 doing? I must admit, I don't know.
Well, it's got it has its own templates, right? like all those page templates that we talked about, like index, home, archive, whatever. It should have some of those
and
already.
Presumably it's styling them.
Well,
but I've got control over styling them, so that's what I'm confused now.
Well, it's got some presets. So like Frost had a color palette, so it had like primary, secondary, tertiary, main, and background, I think, and those were set to some nice looking colors.
Right.
But other than that, there was a font that was set. I can't remember exactly what it was, but there was like a font family. Okay. But yeah, I really felt like, and maybe I wasn't using it properly, but I really felt like it didn't. It was very, very plain. And I think maybe Frost is actually more of a framework than a like finished, this should look amazing. It's like, it's black and white. It's like, this is a starting point. I think I might be doing Brian a whole disservice, and I don't mean to be. Maybe there's other themes that actually come with a lot more flair, just out of the box, like block styles and all kinds of stuff like that. So I think we just need to dig into it a bit more, but I can see us using it because I feel like we're, with our block areas and stuff, we're hacking a little bit to try to build our own full site editing functionality. And I think maybe soon we might actually start bringing some of that stuff on board and ditching our kind of custom way of doing it.
Yeah, we'll have to see. It's but Peter makes a good point. His first point in the chat there. Thanks for that, Peter. He says, "Love blocks don't need a full site editing. Generate Press Pro and Cadence Pro. Are they like block suites? I think they are, aren't they? Give me everything I need and more. FSE is nowhere near ready or useful for the general population." I thought that last point was interesting because, as far as I can remember, and someone will tell me different if they've watched a video, I don't remember picking up any bugs, like real bugs that like this didn't work. Like everything actually worked. You could argue that you didn't like it, but it worked. So I'd perhaps say it maybe is ready for the general population because it does actually work. It did everything it said it was going to do.
Works, but it's confusing.
It is confusing. But like I said, it's new. So you need to use something to make it less confusing. And I do think it's a little harsh just to use it once for 40 minutes and say, it's really confusing, I'm never going to use it again. As I said, as I got towards the end of that video, I was feeling a little bit more positive because I kind of understood things a bit more, which is good.
Yeah, I think so. Suzanne, thanks for the comment. She says 2022 is not a good example for full site editing. I guess 2023 will be much better. Yeah, it could be that we've both chosen themes that actually really haven't been the best starting point for us.
Yeah, because
really interesting
to see those.
Yeah.
Should we move on?
Yeah, let's talk about. Well, I don't have to like loads to say on case studies, just that it was really hard. So we've been working on a fairly big project,
which is
just finished, like a multi-site.
Well, never finished. But...
Well, yeah, all the sites are launched. Yes. Multi-site, multilingual recruitment kind of portfolio of websites for the SR group, and so I just wanted to write a case study. And just maybe because I'm so tired and whatever everything else is going on in my life, but I find it really hard. I think I'm happy with the results, but I always feel with these things that I'm probably missing some really obvious tricks that someone who's kind of good at this stuff would be like, yeah, you haven't pulled out the essence of, the real wins. Because one of the problems at the minute is we don't have metrics, so I'm not privy to like the rise in job applications or the search engine optimization like stats or any of that. So I don't, apart from the fact that the client has told us they love it, and the business love it, and like, the whole, we've got a lot of good feedback, but we don't have those metrics. So that's one of the things I think is really missing from the case study.
Yeah, it's true. I read it and thought it was brilliant. So I think because you sort of posted it on Slack, like, I've done this. It took me 3 days, and I've had enough of it now. Like, I expected to sort of 5 bits. But I thought it was great. I didn't think there's anything wrong with it at all.
Yeah,
and I think a case study is always difficult because you don't know who's reading it, so you don't know what their focus is, and you always really want to like write it so that so when they read it, they think, "Oh yeah, that's me. I'd love to be able to fix that as well." And then they're like, "Oh, I'll definitely get in touch with these guys." But you don't. I mean, we've got a good idea of who our audience is now with the fact that we've focus more on the recruitment side of things, but you never know who's reading it. So like you said, those things that you think might be missing, you don't know what they are because you don't know who's reading it, I think, sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was great. And
Thank you.
It was whatever long it took, it was well spent because I think it reads well and it looks good. And it sort of outlines what we did, how we did it, and why it worked, I think.
Yeah.
Which is good.
I didn't get all the kind of front end, because obviously I do the front end stuff, so I didn't actually put a lot of front end stuff in there. I feel like I could have gone on and on. There's every little feature that we built I could have elaborated on, and I tried to choose the ones that I thought were going to be the most relevant to the target market, which I think is exactly what you should do.
Absolutely.
So I kind of structured a bit of an intro, and then at the end of the intro, I said, well, this is the kind of transfer, I call it the transformation. So where they were, where they are today, just to get that, overview. Talk a little bit about the process that we went through. And then I think the most important part is the results section. So I've said, like, this is what we actually delivered, and these are the results for the client. And what I tried to do here, which I think worked really well, was it's really easy as a developer to list features. So we were asked to build this, so we built this. We were asked to build this, so we built this. And I know from like a marketing point of view that it's all about benefits, not features. So I tried, and I can't remember where I've heard this from, but it kind of popped into my head that there's this kind of technique or framing that you can use where it's like feature X so that benefit Y. So I listed all the features, like moving to open source, and instead of like moving to open source being like the main attention grabbing headline, I'm thinking in my head, so okay, we're using moving to open source so that what, and
that's the headline.
So this was so that they had the freedom to innovate and evolve. Whereas previously they were kind of locked into like proprietary system. And I did that for every feature. So I started by listing the features because that's easy for me. And then I did that so that
turn them
time and time again. And then they became the kind of main in your face headlines.
Yeah.
And hopefully that's good. So like a good example, fully translatable so that they can reach a global audience. Because it's the reaching a global audience that's what they want to achieve. That's the benefit. And that's the thing people will kind of resonate with, hopefully.
Well, interestingly, I had a call with another potential client. Was it 2 days ago now? And actually, the things we talked about on the call, the sales call, were pretty much what's in this case study. So I think it does actually work for that audience because it was a very similar audience. So yeah, I think it was good. They're always hard to write, though, aren't they? I think because actually each project's different as well. So you can't necessarily just have a blueprint that's like do this for every case study. You can a real high level overview like that, but I think the details are sometimes important, and you've got to do that per project. You can't just do that for the same for everything, or else they all sound the same, look the same.
And I felt like this is really important for our business as well, because we've been working on this project for a year. So it's not like we've got this like high churn of projects where we can put out 10 case studies a year. It's like this is our case study for the last year of our business. So I feel like it has to be good. I think hopefully it was worth the time. And
realistically, we're going to do 4 projects at the most in a year, aren't we?
Well, that size less even.
That size less, but that was a project. So if we're doing more of that, we might do one of those in a year and a few other little ones.
If anyone wants to read it, the easiest way to get there is probably highrise.digital and then scroll down until you see the green buttons that read the SR Group case study.
I did just put a link in the chat if you want to put it on screen, but that might work as well. So
where'd you put that? I can't see it.
I can't see the
link. No.
All right.
Anyway, so that was that. Case studies. Interesting if anyone has any like examples of good case studies, or want to share any tips or any feedback on the one that I wrote. I'd be super, super interested. Mark, I'll have to let you take over for 2 seconds because my builder's about to turn up at my door. So if you can start the next topic.
I will start the next topic. And the next topic that we had was what defines a WordPress generation. So this was based on, I'm going blind here because I haven't seen this actual tweet before, but this was based on a tweet from Jason Tucker, and the tweet read, do you think there is generations in the WordPress community? folks have been using it for a long time and folks that have only recently started using it. If you had to separate the community into generations, what are the mile markers that you would use to do so? So, and then there was quite actually some interesting replies on the tweet, and it got me thinking about like generations. What generation am I in then, and what would we call that generation? Because I've been using it since 2005, late 2005, WordPress. Yeah. So there can't be many more generations than, what was it, 2003 when WordPress started? I think it's 2003.
Well, exactly, and it wasn't really, you were really early
small
to get onto it, yeah.
So how would you define a generation? And I don't know is the answer to that question.
Yeah.
I think you've got an early generation, which obviously started with it. So that's, the founders, obviously, Mike Little and Matt and so forth. And then, I can't think of who they were now back then, but you had this group of people, everyone, well, I sort of knew who they were from WordPress. And then I think probably you've got a line in the sand there where that says, like, they started off, then everyone kind of like, not everyone, but like other people got on board. That's the second generation, maybe. I don't know what you call them. Maybe that sort of takes you up to the times when WordCamp started coming around, maybe.
Yeah.
Which was like 09, 10, 11, 12 was sort of like the WordCamp started.
Yeah.
And then I think you've got probably a generation that goes from there all the way up to, that's difficult, that. Maybe like, does that go all the way up to COVID? And then you get like a post-COVID generation?
Yeah, I think
tricky one.
Yeah, there's some well, I can only talk personally, like, and I think kind of what defines, because I guess when you're thinking about a generation, the most relevant thing is the thing that the big stuff that was going on right at the start of your kind of journey with WordPress. So for me, they're really kind of the big parts of my WordPress journey were meetups and the early WordCamps. Especially WordPress London, because like I started that meetup and ran it for 3 years, and the people that I met there and the kind of the buzz around WordPress at that time was it was a very different like community and feel. It was like we were the kind of scrappy up and comers rather than like the dominant. We were the ones that are like the low market share at that time, rapidly growing, rapidly taking market share away from like Drupal and Joomla and stuff like that. This is way before like, well, is it before Wix? I don't know where Wix came along. Certainly before things like Squarespace and all that, and way before blocks and way before page builders. And so yeah, for me, it's like WordPress, WordCamps, meetups, and I mean WordCamps, I mean the early ones before they kind of got controlled to some extent by the foundation. So when they were just like literally anybody could have a go, and they were again quite kind of scrappy, but I loved it. Like I love that.
So yeah, great.
I prefer those days, but I think maybe one of the reasons I prefer those days is because it was new and it was exciting for me. And like someone coming along today, like the WordCamps are amazing. They're different, and I think it's so you'll always look back fondly, won't you, to those kind of early days of something. And people will do that, in another 10 years, people will look back at the early days and think, how exciting was it whenever like blocks came along and full site editing came along, and it was like this huge thing. But that definitely defines kind of I don't know about generation, because the generation encompasses a lot of people. So it's like my personal generation. It sounds stupid, but that's
it's hard, isn't it? That this is I can't answer this question. What was the last WordCamp you went to?
London, because I have hardly been to any others.
I think mine might be Bristol, 2019 or 20.
Is that when
it won't be 20?
No, it won't be 20.
No, you didn't. You didn't come.
I didn't go to that one.
No, you didn't go to that one. I think it might be Bristol. It was in the university.
God, my memory's absolutely horrific.
Yeah. But like, they've just stopped, haven't they? Like with the meetups and.
Well, it's a
shame, isn't it?
I was going to put something out, like just reach out to some people on Twitter, like, because I just like when this came up, I started thinking about meetups, and I was like, where are all the meetups?
Yeah.
Like we can do them again, and there's no restrictions in this country preventing it. Like, where's WordPress London? Where are they? Who's like, I haven't heard from that bunch in a while, and I think it's a real shame. I think it would be harder to run a meetup today because everyone's used to just sitting at home.
Yeah, I think it's harder, isn't it? And I think, I don't know, like, is that what people want? Like,
possibly not.
Like I said, would people turn up if they were run? I honestly don't know, but I'd love to see it try, because it'd be so good to see everyone again and meet up. It's been so long, hasn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh well, there we go. 30 minutes. Should we call it a day, or?
Let's wrap it up. We can always roll over the other topic ideas until next week. Thanks for joining us, everybody. As always, if you like the show, you can give us a like on YouTube. Subscribe there to get notifications. I think you get an email whenever the show goes out, so you can know when we're live. And then you can follow us on your podcast player of choice as well, and our website. Get in touch with us on Twitter. All the usual stuff. I think we should be pretty easy to find these days. Yeah. But yeah, great to have you.
Well. Not just WP Café.
We do other videos on our channel. Check them out. Yeah, especially Mark. But thanks for joining us, and see you all next time.
Will do. Bye-bye.